Alright, guys, about to actually get this thing started before do a little cleanup on the house. So bear with me for a second. Alright, so yeah, let's switch this thing to me. Cool. Alright, so I think everybody can hear me, and we'll go with that. So let's just go ahead and get into this. Today's date is October the 5th, 2019, and this is how the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan. On how the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and literally try to make sense out of it all. Oh crap! And I got tongue tied for just a second. I apologize. I'm like I said before, Will Buchanan here. And before I do get started, this is an adult podcast, which means that this is of an adult nature, which is basically pretty much saying, well, if I had Vaughn or if I had Trace or Thomas here, they would say choice words that would definitely let you know that this is an adult podcast. So things of adult language and things of a graphic nature may be shown, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, guys, welcome. Well, how do we actually start this? Let's just go ahead and go straight into the forest fire.
Including new major developments in the impeachment showdown. Just moments ago, House Democrats issuing a subpoena to the White House to turn over key documents related to President Trump and Ukraine. The president slamming the House inquiry, insisting his calls for Ukraine and China to investigate rival Joe Biden and his son have nothing to do with the 2020 election. And now House Democrats also demanding Vice President Pence turn over documents for the impeachment inquiry as well. Republican Senator Mitt Romney calling President Trump's latest actions both wrong and appalling. ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl leads us off.
Today, President Trump insisted his calls for Ukraine and now China to investigate his potential 2020 opponent, Joe Biden, have nothing to do with politics.
I don't care about Biden's campaign, but I do care about corruption.
Yet today, the Trump re-election campaign told ABC News it's spending $1 million this weekend on ads attacking Biden and his son Hunter on the very issues the president is asking Ukraine and China to investigate.
Have you had foreign leaders for any corruption investigations that don't involve your political opponent? That is, are there other cases where we would have to look.
Today, Senator Mitt Romney put out a blistering statement saying when the only American citizen President Trump singles out for China's investigation is his political opponent in the midst of the Democratic nomination process, it strains credulity to suggest that it is anything other than politically motivated. Romney called the president's outreach to China and Ukraine, quote, wrong and appalling. The only other Republican senator who ventured to criticize the president, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, who put out a terse statement saying, quote, Americans don't look to Chinese commies for the truth. Contrast that with Florida's Marco Rubio.
Do you think it's okay for President Trump to ask China to launch an investigation of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden?
I don't know, but that's a real request, or him just needling the press, knowing that you guys were going to get outraged by it.
In Iowa, a constituent practically begged Senator Joni Ernst to say something about the president's actions.
Where is the line? When are you guys going to say enough and stand up and say, you know what, I'm not backing any of this?
Okay, so President Trump, if I can say yay, nay, whatever, President is going to say what the president is going to do.
I understand it's a non-answer answer, and I understand. I get it. I know what you're saying.
I can't speak for him. I'll just say that. I can't speak for him.
I know you can't speak for him, but you can speak for yourself.
Some tense moments right there for Republicans, and John Karl joins us now from the White House. You've learned President Trump reached out to Republicans today trying to rally support?
Tom, I'm told that the president made a surprise appearance on a conference call with Republican members of the House. He said that he had done nothing wrong. He has nothing to hide. He portrayed the impeachment effort as an effort by Democrats to undo the 2016 election.
So, what do we take from all this? Pretty much simply, Trump fucked up, as if he didn't fuck up enough this entire term. For all those that don't know, this all started with Ukraine. Like I said before my last podcast, Trump basically reached out to a foreign power to invest his political opponents. For all those that don't know, that is an impeachable offense. I know a lot of you guys are sitting there saying he's done a lot of impeachable offenses, and you would be correct. However, in this case, this might actually be the one that breaks the camel's back, and this is why Trump is panicking. He's panicking in the simple sense that he's asking foreign governments to look into his political opponents. Again, something you should not do or you actually cannot do. Reason being because that actually will violate certain constitutional rights, which Trump has admitted in doing. So here's the problem. You already have a Democratic caucus that is hell-bent on ensuring that this impeachment inquiry, I don't know why you call it an impeachment inquiry. It is an impeachment. You are basically coming at this man from all sides. And I will honestly give it to President Cheeto on this note. He is right. They're not coming after him for impeachment. They're coming after him for crimes because he knows as long as he's president, for some odd reason, because the opinion of the Department of Justice, they will not indict a sitting president. Keep in mind, it's an opinion. It's not law. They actually can go after the president if they want to. However, at the Department of Justice, you have Trump's personal attorney, William Barr, at every turn. So, why is this? So how do we get to Ukraine? Well, pretty much, this is pretty much the extent of how we got, to this part.
Some of the extraordinary texts that NBC has been digging through, delivered by the former U.S. envoy to Ukraine, Kurt Volker, to House lawmakers. These texts speak directly to the issue at the heart of the impeachment inquiry, whether President Trump was using the prestige and the financial power of the United States as leverage to force the president of Ukraine to help him investigate a political rival. I'm talking Joe Biden. I want to walk you through this step by step. The first text I'm going to read is from the morning of July 25th. That is the very day of the phone call between President Trump and President Zelensky. The text is from the envoy, Kurt Volker, to Zelensky's aide, Andrei Yermak, appearing to lay out the President of the United States' expectations for that call. Volker says this: heard from the White House, assuming President Z convinces Trump he will investigate and get to the bottom of what happened in 2016, we will nail down a date for a visit to Washington. Afterward, Yermak tells Volker the call went well and President Trump offered some dates for a White House meeting. But then 2 weeks after that, Yermak tells Volker he wants the visit to be made official before committing to any investigation. He also mentions Burisma and election meddling specifically. At that point, it seems like things are on track until August 28th, when Politico reports that the White House has been keeping military aid on hold for months. It is pretty clear Yermak and the Ukrainians were taken by surprise, because he actually texts the article to Volker and says they need to talk. 2 days later, the State Department officials were told President Trump had canceled plans to meet with Zelensky. On September 1st, the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, Bill Taylor, texts the U.S. ambassador to EU, Gordon Sondland, and writes this: are we now saying that security assistance and White House meetings are conditioned on investigations? Sondland says, call me. 8 days later, Taylor brings up this issue again, writing, as I said on the phone, I think it is crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign. But this time, Sondland pushes back, writing, Bill, I believe you are incorrect about President Trump's intentions. The president has been crystal clear. No quid pro quos of any kind. Then Sondland says, we should stop texting about this.
Yeah, you probably should have stopped texting. And that was the thing and now you're probably wondering, this sounds all like high school bullshit, and you wouldn't be wrong. But you would think political people who have the ability to basically change shit, and they're texting. It amazed me so. Only amazed me so that yes, it looks like that he's basically the great communicator, as Trump likes to make himself. Yes, did actually bargain America's services for political gain. And now, because it's text, he can't argue it. So what does that mean? Well, Democrats, the ball's in your court. But unfortunately, at the same time, it also depends on Republicans. Hence why Trump is looking for Republican support. The reason being is because pretty much all Democrats at this point are on board with impeachment. However, in the Senate, you need about 54 Republicans to officially remove the president. let's be honest. Republicans have done all they could to protect this president, even at the expense of us. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this impeachment inquiry goes, just because the simple fact of the matter is that you do need Republicans to remove this president. Will they go along with it? Well, you better not depend on Jody Ernst or Marco Rubio, because apparently they're too small to say shit. Mitt Romney might, but let's be honest, it's Mitt Romney. Once you've been to the mountaintop and try to go against a black man and lose a presidential election, you really don't give a shit about what anybody thinks about it anymore. And at the same time, I wouldn't count on Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee. Yes, I am pointing out that cunt specifically because she is the biggest Trump supporter there is. So, but it's going to be interesting as far as that goes, guys. But it's like I say, I think at this point, like I said on previous podcasts, we need to see something from the Democrats. Now, I truly believe this is all Mueller's doing. I believe that brilliant person decided to lay all this out, because you have to understand, Mueller did not leave everything in that report for us to see that was redacted by William Barr. He actually sent out a lot of other information to other state attorneys. Reason being, because the state attorneys can go after the president. He is not protected. He's not protected from all crimes as if, because he's the president. He does have to answer for it. But anyway, looking forward to that so far, because this story is just getting crazier and crazier. Now, aside from that, another news story that came out, probably you guys have heard of, and probably got some thoughts about.
About 5 hours of jury deliberations led to this moment.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Amber Geiger, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment.
The family of the man Amber Geiger shot erupted in cheers, but the former Dallas police officer sat silent. The dramatic verdict capped a trial that had captivated the country.
I ask God for forgiveness, and I hate myself every single day.
Geiger had claimed she feared for her life when she killed her unarmed neighbor, Botham Jean, mistaking him for a burglar in her apartment. Turns out she'd accidentally barged in on his unlocked apartment on the wrong floor.
It's a sad reality that this community waited on pins and needles to decide whether or not someone could be held guilty for killing an unarmed black man in his home while eating ice cream.
During closing arguments, Geiger's attorneys had brought up Texas's so-called castle doctrine, similar to stand-your-ground laws in other states, which allow someone to use deadly force against an intruder in self-defense.
Why is it absurd to apply the castle doctrine in this case?
Because there was just so many instances, as the prosecutors argued, that she knew or should have known that she was not in her apartment.
Perhaps the trial's key moment was when Geiger was cross-examined and pressed on her intent at the time.
When you aimed and pulled the trigger at Mr. Jean, shooting him in center mass exactly where you are trained, you intended to kill Mr. Jean.
I did.
Late today, during sentencing, Jean's mother took the stand.
My life has not been the same. It's just been the most terrible time for me.
Sentencing is expected to resume here tomorrow morning. Amber Geiger was.
Now, of course, that was a data report. Of course, for all those that have been paying attention, she was sentenced to 10 years, and well, that's bullshit. Let's just go ahead and call it what it is. Now, the other story, which I hope didn't get traction, but apparently it is getting traction, is that there are pictures of showing. There are pictures showing of the family of Mr. Jean. Well, I should say the brother is hugging Amber Geiger. The judge hugged Amber Geiger. The bailiff was straightening her hair out. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to, I have opinions about that. But this again, this is not the platform to say that as much as that goes. So on a different platform, on a different podcast, we'll talk about that. But on this one, I just, didn't really, I do have some opinions about that, but just simply not going to go into it because, we definitely want to keep a biased and unbiased opinion on this. So, again, that's one of those things on a different podcast I'm going to talk about, but just not this one. But aside from that, I find it amazing that, that this is one out of the last, I want to say one out of the last 7 cases that include a police shooting that where it didn't have to happen. Because I think the other one, Stephen Clark, they actually got acquitted. And he was in the backyard, and he didn't have a gun, and they shot him to death. They killed him, and those officers didn't get charged. I think I covered that in my last podcast. But in this case, I do believe that some justice was sought. But again, personal opinions will be on the Off Limits podcast. But just for this, at least some justice was served. Now, I keep on saying, America, you have a terrorist problem, and you guys just keep proving me right.
Our deputies received a call from worried parents. They were concerned about their adult daughter, 27-year-old Michelle Colts. While checking Michelle's bedroom, her parents found what appeared to be a significant amount of pipe bombs, other bomb-making materials, and numerous weapons. Her parents did exactly what we asked people to do. If you see something suspicious, please say something. They immediately called 911. When our deputies arrived at the home on Jagged Cloud Drive in Waimama, they recognized the materials were indeed bomb-making materials. They suspected that there were numerous pipe bombs already made, so they pulled out of the home, along with the parents, for safety and requested that our bomb team respond to render the home safe. The amount of highly destructive materials we found in this home were astonishing. 24 pipe bombs, smokeless pistol powder, fuse material, 23 different knives, 2 hatchets, nunchucks, 2 BB pellet type rifles, 6 BB pellet type handguns, and dozens of books and DVDs about murder, mass killing, domestic terrorism, and bomb making. What is even more frightening is that each pipe bomb contained nails, metallic pellets, or a combination of both, and would have taken less than 60 seconds per device to add the powder and fuse material she already possessed to detonate each bomb. If used, these bombs could have caused catastrophic damage and harm to hundreds, even thousands of people right here in our Tampa Bay community. Deputies located Michelle Colts at her job, and she agreed to return home with them. Deputies were able to arrest her without incident. Michelle Colt is now facing 24 counts of making a destructive device with intent to harm. Colt admitted to detectives that she made the devices and that she planned to use them to hurt people.
So, just to cut that completely short, a Florida woman is basically, her parents did see something and said something, because 24 pipe bombs with weapons and nunchucks. I don't know why the nunchucks stick out to me on the whole entire story. And I know I shouldn't be laughing at it because technically that's another terrorist, but I just found it funny where the guy was just sitting there going, all right, so you got 24 pipe bombs, you got 2 BB guns, you have 27 different knives, and we have nunchucks. Bitch, what you gonna do with nunchucks? I mean that's where again, this is how my mind works, so I apologize. But it amazed me so that all this was found by her parents, and this is honestly what she looks like. So I keep on saying this the entire time. America, you have a domestic terrorist problem, and I'm not saying they're white all the time, but so far, it's like so far the streak on that has been pretty much this. But again, Florida never disappoints. But it's amazing to me that we never do want to admit that there is a terrorist problem. And in her case, 24 pipe bombs discovered. She was going to do something. And it's like when you have these, it's like it's always in these parents' houses. And I guarantee parents, I don't know this woman's house internally, but I bet she has a locked door. Parents, stop giving your kids locked doors. Take the doors off the hinges. They ain't paying rent. I mean, if it's a closed door, chances are she's a terrorist. That's all I'm saying. But glad that was thwarted because that could have been way worse. But another story that has popped up in D.C., basically about the world's oldest profession, and I think we're ever getting so closer to Amsterdam.
Become the sex capital of the United States? That's a question that some people are asking after 3 D.C. council members have now proposed a bill to decriminalize sex work in the nation's capital. The bill is called the Community Safety and Health Amendment Act of 2019. If it passes, it would make the district the only place in the United States outside of a few counties in Nevada where prostitution and sex work are legal. As you can imagine, this has set off a pretty fierce debate. A public hearing will be held next week, and a number of groups are raising questions about this debate. One of the advocates in that fight is here with us now, Yasmin Vafa. She is the executive director of rightsforgirls.org. Yasmin, thanks for coming in.
Glad to be here.
It's great to see you. So legal prostitution, good idea?
So it's a fraught question, and I think one that is really complex. We're seeing legislation like this introduced not only in D.C., but in places like New York and elsewhere throughout the country under the guise of decriminalizing sex work, as you noted. But I think what a lot of people fail to recognize is that in doing so, we're actually legitimizing and legalizing the entire industry. So what this would do is actually repeal the laws against pimping and pandering, purchasing sex, and brothel keeping, which we're concerned would actually fuel exploitation of vulnerable communities.
Yeah, your organization, rightforgirls.org, very concerned about that. Advocates of this bill share your concerns, of course, but they say that this would allow for safer sex, it would allow for some transparency, allow women to come forward to regulate the trade. Of course, they say there would be protections against trafficking. But I was struck in some reporting. Our Tom Shines, senior producer here at ABC News, did some work on this. He found one victim of sex trafficking who was reported to have said that her pimp informed her that this was happening and was very excited about it. I mean, that's the sort of testimony that's got to trouble you.
Absolutely. I mean, we do a lot of work with young survivors of the sex trade here locally as well as across the country through our partnership with Courtney's House, which is a survivor-led program here in the district. We've heard from young survivors between the ages of 9 to 24. Many of them came to us because their traffickers told them about the legislation. We organized a closed-door listening session with several members of the council and their staff to hear from these young people directly, and they indicated that, don't you think there's something wrong if our traffickers are excited about this and are in fact planning around the passage of this legislation?
So a big debate ahead next week in D.C. We hope to have you back, Yasmin Yaffa with Rights for Girls.
Okay, so for all those that are wondering just what the fuck did you just watch, basically, guys, they're trying to fight sex trafficking, but they always find it, they always put sex workers and sex trafficking in the same boat. Now, for all those that don't have an idea, trust me, I did a little research on this because stories like this, my curiosity level goes up. Not just because other areas of the world have figured out how to regulate and tax sex workers. Other ones have figured out how to do it. So why is it that, for us to be such a progressive country, we still have issues? So, and I'll be honest with you, I got nothing against it. Whatever 2 adults decide to do for money and services rendered, that's on y'all. I can live with that. I'll still sleep like a baby either way about that. But for the simple fact of the matter, there is kind of that area of sex trafficking to where the laws that could regulate sex workers could also protect sex traffickers. However, again, I personally think that's kind of a reach. But again, Amsterdam has got it figured out. Certain parts of Nevada. If you've been in Nevada, I'm not trying to advertise where in Nevada you can go for cardinal coitus. You've been in Nevada, you know you can go. Just leave it at that. And there's certain other areas. It's like, again, the only way you can actually, and I still say this, it's just like the so-called war on drugs. You're not going to win that war by trying to go against the cartels. You win that war by legalizing it and taxing the shit out of it. That's how you win. So, again, with the sex workers, legalize it. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get your moral victory out of this, I should say, is that you have to legalize it and hold them to a standard. I mean, aside from that, you're just going to, it's the world's oldest profession. It's not going anywhere. So I think there's an interesting story in that. What's also an interesting story is, I hate to say it, but it finally happened, and we should be concerned.
Now, where the justices began their new term this week with several major cases on the docket about gay rights, immigration, guns, the president very much front and center in all of this. The decisions set to impact millions of lives stir up a lot of politics in this election year as well. Today, they added to their list of issues. They are going to take on a case involving abortion. This involves a Louisiana law that would restrict access to abortion, according to critics, requiring doctors in that state to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals. I want to bring back in Melissa Murray, who, of course, knows the court very well, and also Ellie Schilling. She's a lawyer with Lift Louisiana. It's an advocacy group in that state. Thank you both for being here. Ellie, I want to start with you. For people not familiar with this Louisiana case, what's on the line? What is the court going to be looking at here?
Well, I mean, if this law were to go into effect, it would really have a devastating impact on abortion access in Louisiana. It would close most, if not all, of the clinics, which, just so viewers understand, there are only 3 clinics in Louisiana at this time. Laws like this and other actions that the state has taken has already caused most of the clinics to close. When this exact same law went into effect in Texas, then it caused about half of the clinics there to close. So the impact on access would be drastic and dramatic, and particularly then the impact on poor and vulnerable women in terms of wait times and drive times to access a clinic.
And Melissa, as Ellie was talking about there, this is notable because the law in question is very similar to a Texas law that the court struck down back in 2016. What does it tell you that the court didn't just issue a summary reversal here and say this case should go away? What does it tell you that they took it up?
Well, it's not just that it's similar, it is virtually identical. And even the Fifth Circuit, the court below who decided this before it went on appeal to the Supreme Court, said so. The fact that the court has decided to take this up, even though it clearly violates established Supreme Court precedent from just 3.5 years ago, suggests that there are at least 4 justices on the court who are ready to call the question of abortion, and I think we have a pretty good idea of who those justices are. This, of course, will be the first outing for Justices Neil Gorsuch and Justice Brett Kavanaugh, both of whom replaced Scalia and Anthony Kennedy. Scalia was notable in his opposition to abortion, but Justice Kennedy was frequently someone that the liberals on the court could rely on to cast a vote in favor of upholding abortion laws that were overly restrictive. The fact that he's no longer on the court and we have these 2 new justices suggests that this is a very different day. And if this law is upheld, it will be an invitation to other states to continue legislating more and more restrictive laws, and the proliferation of these laws will surely happen.
And Ellie,
and pretty much she's right. The worst fear is, I've called this before, is when I sat there and said, ever since Kavanaugh, who again lied his way out of sexual assault and is now a Supreme Court justice for now, makes it a literal conservative-leaning Supreme Court. So, just like everybody figured what was going to happen, an abortion case was going to reach the Supreme Court. Keep in mind, Roe versus Wade is still the law of the land, which makes abortion legal. However, if this decision on this case was to go against that and say and rule in favor of against abortion in Louisiana, then that can take precedent and be used in every other abortion case going forward. I've said it once, I'll say it again. A woman's body is her own goddamn business. It is amazing to me in this day and age, why is abortion still being brought up? It is simply a choice. You cannot sit there and force your choice onto somebody else. Don't sit there and try to use religion to try to cover that. Pretty much, if you yourself like to choke your chicken without being told that you can't do it, At the same time, you can understand a woman's choice. However, there are a lot of people out there, mostly conservatives, who feel that this is wrong and should be able to tell a woman what she can do with her body for various reasons. A lot of them are stupid, but mostly reasons why they try to cover that. But again, I've said it once, I'll say it again. A woman's body is her own business. Let it go. But again, we hope the Supreme Court lets it go. But I don't feel, but when you have a couple of predators on the Supreme Court, that might actually not go out the way you plan. Anyway, moving right along, guys. This was a very interesting story as well. I never thought I'd see this happen for a shooting that involved such a high tragedy.
For the families who lost loved ones and for those who survived the bloodshed, today's settlement comes days after the second anniversary of the Las Vegas massacre. MGM Resorts announcing it would pay upwards of $800 million to settle lawsuits from victims. Nisha Tonks, a single mother of 3, was among the 58 people killed by gunfire. Her family today.
There's not enough money to bring my daughter back. There's not enough money to put a price tag on her death.
The proposed settlement with MGM is not an admission of wrongdoing. Our goal has always been to resolve these matters so our community and the victims and their families can move forward in the healing process.
Losing that person has created a huge void in my life, and it's really trying to relearn how to live without my mother.
The deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history came after a gunman opened fire on a music festival from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. MGM, who owns the property, was accused of failing to prevent the shooter from stockpiling weapons and ammo. Police never determined a motive, and now many families say, even with the settlement, they may never truly have closure. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
So what's interesting about that is that, of course, that's a Las Vegas shooting, and that, this person did stay at an MGM Grand Hotel. And just like the story says, MGM Grand has decided to do over an $800 million settlement with the families, with the victims' families. Now, what does that pretty much say about all that? Now, it was an interesting, because I actually saw that on another news cycle, and I thought it was an interesting parallel they tried to make, because MGM Grand is basically saying, it's amazing they're not admitting guilt, but let's just be honest. That security was lax as shit for a guy to get that much weaponry into a hotel and nobody batted an eye. But it draws an interesting parallel, because is he going to put gun manufacturers in the same spot? Keep in mind that a ruling earlier this year said that yes, gun manufacturers and companies can be held liable because I believe a couple of families did try to sue Bushmaster. Who of the popular Bushmaster AR-15s, they actually were sued, and they were fighting for the right to be sued. I should say that. I'm sorry, but it draws an interesting parallel just because the fact of the matter is that will gun manufacturers be held to the same standard as a person that decides to use their guns to basically do mass murderings and terroristic natures and things of that nature? If a hotel is able to see that and go, we need to do something, then gun manufacturers will as well. I mean, you see that with Colt. Colt actually stopped making AR-15s. They didn't say it was because of public influence or whatnot. They said the market was already flooded. Okay, well, whatever makes you sleep at night. But it's amazing they stopped making them. So I just find it interesting that maybe along these very same lines, are we about to see gun manufacturers and firearms companies about to be held to that same standard? Time will tell. But aside from that, guys, you guys remember the Universal Basic Income test? Well, this was basically, if you guys don't remember, the mayor in Stockton, California, wanted to actually talk about Universal Basic Income. What he did as a test was that he took 125 people, basically gave them $500 a month on a debit card just to see what they would do with it. And from what they found out was that other participants, a lot of them use it to pay bills. Shocker! I don't know why, above all else, because from the looks of things, that, based on their studies, they had 43% that are working full or part-time, 2% that are unemployed and not working for work, 8% are retired, 20% are disabled, and 10% are stay-at-home parents. And for a lot of them, they just use it to pay bills. Shocker. I know, it never ceased to amaze me. And I've said it before, automation is unfortunately inevitable. For what automation is, it's pretty much taking a human and giving a robot its job. I still think that, unfortunately, automation is headed this way. There's going to be a lot of jobs out there that, as the years move forward, they're just not going to be there. I mean, whether, companies want to use robots as cashiers and whatnot, or just have stores like those Amazon pop-up stores where you can walk in, get whatever the fuck you want, swipe your card and get out, that type of thing. So, automation is bound to happen. But at the same time, people still got bills to pay. And I think the universal basic income, which Andrew Yang, presidential candidate, that is about, he calls them I think he calls them dividends now. I don't know what's wrong with just saying universal basic income. We're going to wind up we wind up giving people money anyway, whether it's unemployment, whether it's disability, Social Security, things of that nature. They've earned it, so therefore they can get it. There's nothing wrong with saying universal basic income because, let's be honest, I don't know any of my friends, we're not about millionaires. If someone told you, hey, here's an additional $500 to $1,000 a month to help you out with bills, cool. Not a handout. People are struggling. So I just found it interesting because a lot of people who actually live universal basic income are like, oh, we're just giving these people free money. We're just doing this. They're not going to pay bills. They're going to buy that. And it is strangely similar to people who cry about socialism. Oh, we're going to make everybody equal. I'm going to take from me to give to them. What do you think taxes are? But again, I just found it interesting that, there is a solid basis for this universal basic income and how it can help every American. I truly think that it is going to become more of a necessity than a dream just because of the way our job market is. And our business and our stock market, which is kind of funny because as of yesterday, the Dow was down again 1,000 points because of tariffs. And now keep in mind, although President Trump, I hate saying that, it hurts my soul to say that, President Cheeto did alleviate some tariffs on China because he's still in this trade war with China. Not really a trade war, he just wanted to pick a fight. So, it is amazing to me that he thought that his trade war on tariffs would help. Actually, it didn't. It actually tanked. For anybody who actually has stocks right now and investment accounts and things of that nature, I feel for you. I have some myself, and I haven't looked at my E-Trade in almost 5 months. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at my E-Trade right now because I'm pretty sure my stocks, I don't want to look. I'm just going to put it that way. I'm not going to look. But again, it amazed me so that this is the domino effect. He tried to go one-on-one with China. And here's the thing. You can't go one-on-one with China when the majority of our items come from China. When they own the production, they own the manufacturing, they control the prices, they can also do whatever the fuck they want. You're not going to win that battle. And yet, he believes he can. Shocker. But again, not surprised about that because, like I said before, with the trade talk, with the tariff wars going on with China, the fact there's not a set deal with that, and his impeachment, the news is coming up, just makes it all the more worse for our economy. So, really shouldn't be surprised about that. But anyway, our last story, I still find it cool if you're a space nerd. If not, I understand. We're going to have a first female spacewalk. Now, I love the fact that it's pretty much an all first female spacewalk set for October 21st. And I think it's cool. Now, I think it should have been a long time coming because, like I said, I've always been fascinated with space. I've always been fascinated with, seeing our solar system from a different view. I at one time wanted to become an astronaut, and then I realized I like to eat too much before I started working out. So that changed a lot of shit. Anyway, what I love about this is that 2 women are going to be able to go to the moon. I know it's a place we've already been there, but it's cool that they're basically having the first spacewalk that's all women. And just like Simone Biles and every other woman, shoot, if I could think of that woman's name that beat Usain Bolt's 100-meter record. I cannot think of her name to save my life right now. But these women should be celebrated just because, like I said, I'm all about progressive movement, so I'm not knocking it. I still think it's pretty cool, and like I said, for me to be in space, yeah, I'm always a Trekkie, so live long and prosper. Aside from that, guys, that's really all the stories I got, aside from my good news segments. And like I said on How the Frack We Got Here, when it comes to basically the news we talk about, it's a lot of doom and gloom. It's not always good news. It's sometimes mostly bad. So, it's the weekend, and we're trying to, go on a good note and things of that nature. So this first story I got, I still find funny as hell because of all the ways to get out of speeding.
Oh my goodness, baby coming out. No, baby coming out. Officer. That's the reason why I'm speeding, officer. This is baby's coming out. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Start me an ambulance. I've got a female having a baby. Dad's coming out. All right. Are you Dad?
Yeah.
Come over here. Okay, hang on. Congratulations, you got a little girl. Happy birthday, man.
Now, I don't care what nobody says. That is about the best way to get out of a speeding ticket. So for all that couldn't see, a guy was driving his girlfriend to the hospital as she's giving birth, heads breaching everything. Nice to see a cop actually sit there and instead of writing out the ticket and then giving birth, decides to go ahead and get the baby, go ahead and deliver the baby. So again, I thought that was cool, and trust me, that's probably the quickest way to get out of a speeding ticket. The other story I got though is I'm starting to wonder about Florida, and I mean this ever in the nicest way. Because this woman, LaRonda Marshall, has literally been in 3 different stories as she is a Miami-Dade transit driver. She's actually saved somebody who was having a heart attack while riding the bus, and nobody knew it, but she noticed it. Basically got the guy the help he needed. If she didn't, and they're sitting there saying he would have been dead by the end of her route if he didn't help that. Keep in mind, that's just one story. You guys gotta remember, back about almost 2 years ago, she was literally the person that helped out a pedestrian who got hit by a car, and decided to basically be with the guy until helped arrive. She was also the same woman about a month after that saw a little girl walking by herself and took care of the girl until police and child services got her there. And I'm gonna be dead honest. The woman should be given props, but I'm starting to wonder what in Miami-Dade is going. Well, it's Florida, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that. But it just makes you wonder. That's 3 times a bus driver has been impacting people's lives, and again, that just honestly. Well, I mean, it's good to know, but it's like, what the fuck's going on in Florida? Hey, Eolus, Elaine race riot was what? Yolis, I appreciate you watching, dude, but I don't know what you're talking about. Elaine race riot was from September. All right, you gotta explain that one because I don't know where you're going with that. But anyway, that's gonna do it for our show, guys. I do thank you all for watching and for all those that jumped in and commented things of that nature. I certainly appreciate it. So some shameless plugging before I do get out of here. I am not the only cat that does have podcasts. I'll start with Vaughn, Big BZA Dot, on YouTube, has several podcasts of his own. He actually has the VST, which is a podcast of news. That news can be video games, that news can be music, that news can be trailers. That news can be his rants, which it's been a while since he's done a rant, Vaughn. I mean that. I need that. I need that rant. But anyway, interactive show just like mine. He also has Rhythmness, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, in which he did one, part 1. I love that he's doing part 1 and part 2 of Rhythmness, which I find interesting. But part 1 was done yesterday. And what is Rhythmness? It is basically us going, I should say us. It's basically Vaughn going over musical albums, both past and present and upcoming, and he gets to a 4-tier rating system. If you want to know what that 4-tier rating system is, you got to watch from this to find out, both part 1 and part 2. He also has Random as Fuck with Uncle VZ. What is Random as Fuck? Random as Fuck is the pool of randomness we sometimes dip our toes into to take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some videos make you think, some videos make you cry. Some videos will always stick with you. Just like that lady who was at a Burger King drive-thru and the Burger King's on fire and she was adamant about waiting for a change. I wish I could make that up. But again, Random Fuck with Uncle VZ. Now, all of Vaughn's shows can be found on his calendar on Facebook. So if you look up Avon.Westspoon on Facebook, you'll be able to see his calendar and be able to see when he'll be doing his podcast. My other brother from another brother, Trace Brown, DJ King Wayne, has 2 podcasts of his own. He has The Bump Down, which is music, culture, knowledge, and numbers, in which he goes over what's hot on the charts and what's hot on the underground, and upcoming artists like his one that he's promoting right now, Hickey J, who's Hungry Let's Eat. And also he likes to give his insight on the recording industry. So if you've always been curious about how the recording industry, or if you're an upcoming artist that just wants your music to be played on Bump Down, and also on Vaughn's Rhythmness, please reach out to Vaughn or Trace, and they'll get you the digits on how you can actually do that. Now, aside from the Bump Down, Trace also has a Smoke of Truth. What is Smoke of Truth? The Smoke of Truth is the Check Your Ego at the Door, Not for the Faint of Heart podcast, in which he goes in on a lot. And, some people can take it, some people can't. But this is the reason why we let people know up ahead of time. If you're willing to have that talk and really go there, then Smoke of Truth is for you. Later on today, Thomas Reed, as we call the Mountain Puncher, who will eventually leave Jim, will do his To Be Determined podcast. What is To Be Determined? Basically, if you've seen Thomas or seen his Facebook, that man stays in the gym all the damn time. But again, he loves fitness. He loves talking about fitness. He loves talking about working exercise. He loves talking about nutrition. And honestly loves talking about things that you see in the gym. Like them trainers that get too close to women when they're doing squats. Come on, bro. You need. Look, I'm sorry. Y'all seen it. Y'all go there and tell me y'all know a few brothers in the gym that are personal trainers that get up on girls while they're in yoga pants. And in mid-squat, I'm like, bro, you about 2 seconds from getting this girl pregnant. Do you gotta be that fucking close? He talks about shit like that. And again, To Be Determined podcast, which will be later on Facebook Live, which will be on his YouTube page, which will be on his page if you look up Thomas Reed on Facebook. And aside from that, of course, my How the Frack We Got Here is every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon. And also later on today, which I'm very excited about, my Off Limits podcast. What is Off Limits podcast? Off Limits podcast is basically the podcast that goes there. We've been told a long time ago as kids, you can't talk about sex, politics, religion, in front of and with everybody because that makes them uncomfortable. I believe that a lack of these conversations is the reason why we don't have civil conversations anymore. People want to talk over each other, yell at each other. Everybody's talking, but nobody's listening. What we try to do at Off Limits Podcast is, aside from talking about those subjects that nobody wants to talk about, we actually try to have civil conversations. I do believe that civil conversations will lead to more progressive people to where you can actually get shit done. So, Off Limits Podcast will be a little bit later today. Possibly between 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. as I hope to have a lot of people on there, Vaughn, and some female voices. Like I always said, best, I always look for female voices. I cannot tell you how many times I would love to have more women on the show, and I hope to do that, but definitely we'll have on there tonight. So, aside from that, guys, all of us do have YouTube pages, so if you look up Big BZA Dot, if you look up DJ Kenny Wayne, How the Frack We Got Here, and Off Limits Podcast, all those are active YouTube pages to where you can like, share, and subscribe and be able to, see every podcast we've done from there. Also, my other buddy, Wingnut Gaming, on Facebook, he has his own gaming channel. What is Wingnut Gaming? He basically is a guy who loves first-person shooters. He loves Apex Legends, Call of Duty. He loves World of Warcraft, which has been his big kick in Borderlands 3. He loves Fortnite, his choice, not mine. But just likes to be social. But he's a very social cat, just wants to have fun with everybody. So if you ever get a chance to go Wingnut Gaming on Facebook, like, share, subscribe from there. Speaking of gaming channels, we will eventually have some set up. I know Vaughn is definitely tweaking his to where he does his gaming, and I still have my ideas for my gaming channel and Thomas's gaming channel and Trace's gaming channel. Pretty much just because I think the commentary behind all of us is going to be fucking funny. So, be on the lookout for those. But aside from that, guys, last thing I said about how the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. I believe that the only way you can do that is not accept everything at face value. You'd actually go in and do the research yourself and be able to show someone else what you found in hopes of inspiring them to do the same. Because an informed community can make a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one got us Trump, and that's how the Frack We Got Here. So thank you guys for all watching. If you're watching this on the playback, go ahead and comment as if I'm actually here, because I'm pretty sure you Trump supporters will. Aside from that, guys, hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully not as hot, or as just not as hot. I'll take the winter right now. But anyway, thanks for guys for watching. I appreciate it.